This question is asking, if the below statement is true, then which other statement must also be true? And what I know about conditional statements, or if-then statements, or I know if the conditional statement is true, if P then Q, then it's contrapositive. If not Q, then not P. If I take the two different pieces of the sentence structure and I flip them around and take the opposite meaning by putting nots in there, I know that contrapositive is always true. So to solve this problem, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the original statement, and I'm going to identify what's my P and my Q. Then I can go through the four different possible answers and see if I can find the contrapositive if not Q, then not P. And when I find that, I'll know that that must be my correct answer. So first, let's read the statement. If an angle's measure is 90 degrees, that's the P part, an angle's measure is 90 degrees, then it must not be acute, then Q. Okay. Now you'll notice the Q part has the word not already in it. It must not be acute. So I put another not in, it would say it must not be acute. And that's not how we speak in English. That's what's called a double negative, the negative of not twice. And you can think of double negatives kind of like in math, multiplying by a negative twice. -1 times -1 is actually +1. So if I say the statement, I am not happy, that's the same thing as saying I am happy. And that's why we actually say it in English. So if I want to find the not Q part, I wouldn't say it must not be acute. I would simply say if an angle is acute. And that would be saying if not Q. So let's go through these and see if we can find if not Q, then not P. Let's look at A. If an angle is acute. Well, that's just what I was saying before. That's the same thing as saying if an angle is not acute. And so that is actually if not Q. So that's a good start. That's what we need for our contrapositive. If I can have the second part be if not P, then we'll have found it. Unfortunately, that second part is, then the measure is 90 degrees. That's just my P statement again. So if not Q, then P, that is not my contrapositive. So that's not the answer I'm looking for. Let's look at C. If an angle is not acute, well, if an angle is not acute, that is what my Q statement is, if Q. And I don't want if Q, I want if not Q. So I already know that this is not going to be the contrapositive. If Q, then the measure is 90 degrees, so that's just then P. That's not my contrapositive. If I look at D, if an angle is not acute, again, if Q, and this one's a little closer to my contrapositive because the second part is right, then the measure is not 90 degrees, then not P. So that one is also not correct. But if I finally look at B, if an angle is acute, that is, if not Q, then the measure is not 90 degrees. Then not P. If not Q, then not P. That is my contrapositive. So the answer is B, because I know if the original statement is true, then its contrapositive must also be true.